obviously you're not a golfer.
I must have drank me about 15 Dr. Peppers.
Congratulations. How do you feel?
I gotta pay.
We have heard the chimes at midnight, Master Armicello.
You're an inanimate fucking object! You told I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Who the fuck has the goddamn gall to call his house on a Tuesday night? God!
Well, welcome to this week's episode of 3 for 3, right? That's the name.
Yes.
The
For three.
And my name is Samuel Holler. I am joined by two lovely gentlemen, Jackson Workman and Matthew Patterson, hailing all across this great United States. And we have a pretty interesting selection of movies this week. We got a very classic kind of feeling movie, and then we have two modern classics of a sort, depending on the person.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's a post 9/11 world, okay? And actually,
All 9 yards.
Whole 9 yard was right before, yeah. So, but they knew. Anyway, so I guess we just brought up the name. First movie was Mr. Patterson's pick, The Whole 9 Yards, which is about a dentist played by Matthew Perry, who, yeah, rest in peace.
Rip.
His neighbor, played by Bruce Willis, happens to be the mob boss. Not just any mob boss, but the mob boss. And some hijinks start to ensue when he starts to fall in love with Bruce Willis's wife. So,
just like Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah. Jeez.
Oh man, that's a good one.
Thank you. But yeah, that's the gist of it. So
yeah.
I will say I saw this in 2017 and I loved this movie. I don't know why. I think it hit that right spot of insane comedy, and it was a collection of actors I hadn't really seen together, so I was really enjoying that aspect of the whole thing, especially the GOAT, Michael Clark Duncan.
Another rip.
Yep.
I really want to know what
Rip.
he wears, because that jacket, I think all three of us could probably fit inside that jacket he was wearing throughout most of the movie.
Yeah.
I love the Morpheus glasses he had on though, because that was technically before Matrix too.
True. Yeah.
This came out a year after the Matrix.
Did it?
Mm-hmm.
They were both 99.
This was
2000.
2000.
2000. Wow. I always thought this was a 90s movie.
Kind of feels like one a little bit, like late 90s comedy. But yeah, this was right around that point when Bruce Willis stopped caring. It was like right after this. So it's like one of his last, like, movies where he's actually trying somewhat. But yeah, like you said, Sam, great cast. I think that is one of the highlights of the movie is the great cast. This is, believe it or not, the first non-Friends thing I've ever seen Matthew Perry in.
Really?
Yeah. So, and what you got to understand is, for me, I have seen every single episode of Friends probably about 8,000 times. It's one of those shows that for the last 10 or 11 years, it's just a show that if I'm doing something or if I'm just chilling or just doing whatever, I just have it on, so I've seen every episode like 1,000 times. I can probably quote each one by heart. So having seen him in those episodes of Friends 1,000 times, and then finally seeing him in something else, it was kind of like jarring in such a great way. It was like, oh wow, like seeing you in like a movie with like Bruce Willis. That's so wild. But like, and I just gotta say, man, he deserved such a better career. I mean, watching this, I'm just like, God, you are so fucking funny. There are gags in this movie that are just like on paper, like just okay, just kind of easy, predictable. But he like hits a home run with him just because of his amazing timing, his amazing physical comedy that he's doing. Like when he's running into the glass door and stuff, I was just like, God, you were so fucking funny. Why didn't you do more movies? Like
And
you,
even though I didn't think it was that funny initially, I was like, the thing that's really stuck with me was when he sat down on the stack of tires and just slowly starts like sliding off.
oh yeah, when he's like, that's right. Yeah, that whole bit. I thought that went on a little bit too long, but again,
Yeah.
he was killing it with the physical stuff. And so many, yeah, like line deliveries that he had, I thought were just, fantastic. Like his first line when he comes downstairs and his wife is there, and he's just like, she says like drop dead or whatever, and he's just like, oh yeah, good morning to you too, or what. It's like, again, just not like, there's nothing like especially funny about that line, but it's just his insanely like funny sarcastic delivery, that just elevated it so much. But yeah, I don't know about you guys, but this was to me a very enjoyable movie. I thought, like, not the greatest comedy I've ever seen by any means, but a light, fun, I had a perfectly enjoyable time watching it. I was invested in what was going on. The characters were all very, like likable and kind of came off the screen. Everyone was doing a great job. But was that more or less how you guys felt, or?
Pretty
Yeah.
much, yeah. I
I
haven't seen this since it was like on TV, so I didn't really get the full gist. I think the whole movie, like I knew the plot, but like one performance though that I forgot about, but then I was like, oh yeah, I remember loving this as a kid was Kevin Pollak.
He was the only one who wasn't really hitting for me. I thought most of the cast was doing such a like fantastic job. And then he's just there, just his only bit is his lame accent where he just keeps switching the sounds. But like, yeah, Yimmy and like we want the, I'm just like, it was lame. I didn't think he was very funny at all, but and again in a cast, and he's normally a very dependable actor, so like I don't know, that was odd. But
it was weird. Right before watching it, I watched another movie called Rolling Kansas, which is Thomas Hayden Church's directorial movie. Um, and he's in that as an FBI agent with Thomas Hayden Church, and I was like, damn, he's so funny. I hope I can see another movie with him, and then bam, next
Right.
movie I watched, he was in it.
there you go, double feed, double Pollock.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely, I thought also, I just gotta say, okay, so again, not like the greatest script ever, right? Like solid entertaining, but like for the most part not the greatest. But I gotta say, there were some things that happened in this that took me so unbelievably off guard, that were so clever. Like like Amanda Peet, first of all, was
Yep.
adorable in the movie, a real standout. The twist of her being a kill,
The first
that
one.
that belongs in the plot twist Hall of Fame. I cannot tell you how much that took me off guard when she's like, "Oh yeah, I was hired to kill him," and all that stuff. I'm like, what? Oh, I was literally sitting here just like, "Holy shit, what the fuck?" Like I thought it was just gonna be like some funny little gag at first, like, "Oh yeah, I've always wanted to be a killer my entire life," but then the more they kept unraveling that, I was like, wow, okay, like props to you guys for expertly setting that up too. I mean, they mentioned earlier, like, yeah, I hear that she already got somebody else, but I don't know who it is. And like, like once they reveal that whole thing, you trace it back throughout the rest of the movie, and you're like, oh my God, they were setting that up so well. Like, what a great twist. And also, um, if you want to talk about top 10 anime, Michael Clark Duncan deserved better. He deserves so much better than the way he went out. I was actually like, I don't know if they intended this character to be this likable. Like maybe they wrote him as like more of a like unlikable character on the page, and they weren't expecting Michael Clark Duncan to make him so. I was like, he's kind of my favorite character in the movie. So I was like, when he got shot, I was like, what the fuck? Why? That was upsetting.
Bruce
But
Willis was right in his sentiment. If I didn't kill you, he would have.
I understand why Bruce Willis did it, but I'm just thinking like, why did you even have to write it in that he's not on the level with them? Like it could have just been they both like Oz and don't want to kill him. So like them having to kill him, I don't know, like that was kind of an unnecessary like part of the script. I was like, why kill such a likable character? But yeah, I mean it was cool that, that Jimmy ended up, getting attached to him in the end and all that. And I also have to say, Bruce Willis fucking was one of the funniest parts of the movie to me. I loved when he was yelling at him on the phone and shit. I was fucking dying during that scene.
I started to kind of check out a little, but then yeah, when that scene happened, I was like, I'm locked back in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when he gets like, it seems like to me most times he does comedies, it doesn't really work. But when you get him in that like comedic yelling mode, like that's when he's at his best, Like I don't know, he's got such a great like comedic yell. I don't know, but
You're gonna watch the sequel, Jackson?
fuck no.
The whole 10 yards.
I have no desire whatsoever. I was like, you know what, this is a nice, fun little comedy that I enjoyed watching, nice, quaint little charming thing. I don't want to wreck it with
Yeah.
shitty
I don't
sequel.
know.
Just let me enjoy this.
I associate
Howard Deutsch does the sequel, so clearly.
I did see that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that poor bastard was desperate for a check, I guess, at that time.
I haven't seen it, but I just don't know why. I think of these my two DVD copies of The Whole Nine and Whole 10 Yards together, and then my whole copy of Grumpier Men or
Grumpy old man.
Grumpy Old Men and then Grumpier Old Men together, and I was like, those really both just appease me.
Yeah. I still haven't seen either of those. I'd like to, but
Yeah, I think you'd really like the first one. I haven't seen the second, so
but yeah, I think again, like in a lot of really funny moments, a lot of really clever gags, and I gotta give credit to again, each of the actors is really pulling their weight. Rosanna Arquette played one of the most hateable characters I've seen in a movie in a long time. Like pretty much from the first scene of the movie, I was like, can someone kill this bitch, please? Like legitimately. I was like, I don't care who ends up dying by the end of this movie as long as she's on that list. Like that's all I want to see happen.
good old Fudgy Wudgy Fudge Face was her.
When he first showed up, I was like, is that Harlan Williams? I was like, that is fucking Harlan Williams, the star of the greatest film of all time, Fudgy Wudgy Fudge Face. That movie is my religion.
Red.
There were two movies I've given a 10-star rating to on IMDb, and that is one of them. Yeah, that was a bizarre little part that he had there towards the end. Also, I just have to say, some of the most gratuitous nude scenes I've ever seen in a movie towards the end there.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the things that caught me off guard because I do not remember that whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, like most of
like,
the movie, it's not like raunchy in any way or anything with that kind of tone. And then when she comes through the doorway and she's just completely naked, I was just like, oh, what the fuck? Nothing like that had happened so far in the movie. I was like, oh my God, okay. And then she remains naked for like a solid 5 to 10 minutes. Like for I mean, a while. I'm just like, okay, then. But like we're still going with this gag.
They had a quota to fill.
Yeah.
Say what?
They had a quota to fill.
Oh yeah. Oh, true.
They're getting near the end and they're like, fuck.
Yeah, we gotta hit our nudity quota all right here in one shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, it was a nice, charming little movie that I really, I enjoyed watching. It was just like, okay, yeah, this is definitely like not very demanding, just very funny, very, a lot of funny moments, like plot that you're engaged in, like and Matthew Perry, I thought played just he really made his character very likable and sympathetic, and you were rooting for him the whole time, to not only live but to get away from his wife and get with Bruce Willis's wife, but again, like Ashton Kutcher, but yeah, again, I thought his performance really like it just made me sad that that he's gone, because it's like gone too soon. You were such a talent, but also just like sad that he didn't have more hit movies. I just feel like he should have. I mean, this movie really demonstrated to me like, man, you should have been a comedy superstar. You were just so naturally talented. It's like, and it's cool for me because with this being the first non-Friends thing I've seen him in, it's just like I had no doubt that you were this funny in everything, but like seeing it makes me happy. Like, all right, yeah, like you're more than just Chandler. Like you're this funny, like in whatever you want to be in. So
I really love his facial expressions in this movie. He just, you could see the fear in his eyes sometimes.
yeah. And I have to say also, this is the second week in a row that I've said this. Most unrealistic thing ever is taking a direct gut punch from Michael Clark Duncan and not having to go to the hospital.
Yep.
Last week with Roscoe Jenkins, him getting punched in the face and still being alive, I was like, most unrealistic thing I've seen ever. Here he's like, and that was a hilarious scene too. Again, just like, he just elevates the lines, makes him so much funny with his delivery. I died when he was like, all right, you mind if I go piss a little blood for a second first? Yeah, just definitely. I'm glad you picked this one, Matt. This was a solid one. I probably wouldn't have seen it anytime soon if you hadn't chosen it. So it was a fun time. I definitely was like, I'm glad I saw this because I watched this and Interstate 60 last night back to back. I'm glad I opened with this one because it was like it was like 8 o'clock at night. I was like kind of not feeling it. I was just like, I gotta watch two tonight. So having like a light, fun one to start things off was like, okay, I'm in. Like I'm vibing. Like I'm ready to watch another one now.
That's a good transition to my pick of the week, Interstate 60: Stories of the Road.
What
the full
the
title.
absolute fuck
Yes, the
is
full
this
title.
movie?
Starring James Marsden,
Yep.
our Cyclops, and
Hey Logan, stay away from
co-starring
my girl.
co-starring with Gary Oldman and a slew of other really, really good actors that had no business being in this fucking movie whatsoever.
None.
Not at all.
And for me at least, this movie, well, I'll get into the plot, but it feels like a TV movie just to like kind of set the stage of what you're getting into, and it also kind of feels like it could have been a play, but clearly the depth of like location probably wouldn't provide that. But basically, James Marsden is a kid who's potentially about to go to law school. His dad set everything up for him, gave him a car and his dad's favorite color, which upset him. Pretty much just everything in his life did not click with what his parents wanted him to do, and he starts having these dreams of this girl. And one day, a bucket falls on his head due to other circumstances. And so then it's this whole waking up moment of, I need to go on this journey to pretty much figure out who I am, what I want as a person, and
Has to deliver a package.
yes,
He is the transporter.
charged due to Christopher Lloyd entrusts him with a package to take by October 2nd. So I was like, oh, this is kind of also fitting within the time span of us watching it. And
And he can't look inside it.
yeah, he can't look inside it or anything, or his
He's
wish
got a
will,
set of rules.
which yes, sorry, I
Those
didn't
rules keep
clarify.
him
Got a magic
alive.
8-ball.
That was
Gary Oldman is this
on the
man who
transporter
grants
thing.
wishes to people across the world, and he's kind of like a urban legend that just hasn't been established yet, so that's why people don't really know about him. And he encounters James Marsden before the bucket fell on his head, and he basically asks him an open-ended question to a degree, and that really intrigues Gary Oldman, and so he helps take him on this journey through becoming an adult.
Right. So
And
that was Sam's synopsis of the movie.
yep. I think we probably all three would have had different synopses.
Here's my synopsis of the movie. Gary Oldman plays a serial killer who kills people who just want things to go better for themselves, and is a psychopath who considers that selfish. And he's got leprechaun hair and a monkey pipe that he smokes, that with green smoke comes out, and he's a magical being who tortures and kills and maims people, and holds James Marsden hostage, basically. James Marsden, Christopher Lloyd plays Satan, and James Marsden, I'm not kidding, literally signs a blood contract with Christopher Lloyd to deliver this package. And he travels along a mystical Interstate 60, which doesn't exist on any map. I'm on the highway to hell. Yeah, he's going to hell, is what I believe. But yeah, and if you in the audience are confused, if you're like, what the hell are any of you talking about? This is sane and rational compared to the movie itself.
Which, yeah.
You watching the movie is not going to make anything clearer. If anything, it'll be more confusing. This is, I think, hands down the most fucking demented, batshit insane movie I've ever seen in my life. I almost wish you guys had been here to watch this with me, because it would have been a fun time. You just like watching my reactions. I felt like I was having a fever dream. I felt like
starting off strong with Michael J. Fox
getting killed by a truck.
Yeah,
so I didn't watch the credits for some reason. I didn't really pay attention. And I was like, why the fuck does this cast crazy? But why are Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd in this together? And then I saw the directing by Bob Gale, and I went, explain a lot.
Bob Gale is clearly a psychopath who needs to be institutionalized. If this movie is any indication, I don't even know where to start.
Too, yeah.
I don't even know where to start with this. Like,
Gary Oldman is like the cheapest genie in the world because he only gives you one wish.
Yeah, Gary Oldman is literally a serial killer in this movie. Like, he's describing how he has killed and maimed people who, like that scene with Michael J. Fox. All he's asking for is just, I wish this hadn't happened. I wish that my phone hadn't been broken and I hadn't been late to my meeting. That's like a simple enough request. And he grants the wish and basically causes him to get hit by a truck and killed. And it's like that Willy Wonka thing where it's like, he's a psychopath who kills people, but he's acting like he's the moral altruist of the situation. And it's like, no, dude, you're crazy. You're killing and maiming people. But, you know, and like he causes the bucket to fall on James Marsden's head and almost kill him. And then he's like, he mentions in the car, he says something about like, yeah, a couple wish that they could get married and live happily ever after. So I blew up their car. And I'm like, I had to rewind that part. I'm like, did he just say that he murdered somebody? He puts a black hole in the guy's stomach. He has to eat like all that food like 6 to 7 times a day just to live. I'm just like, these are not, but he's going on in the car just like, yeah, I get mostly selfish requests and that's why I fuck with people. I'm like, wanting to eat a whole bunch and not get full is a selfish request? Wanting to just make it to your meeting on time is a selfish request? This movie is just like, the writing is, not only is the whole movie insane, I mean, things happen that you can't believe you're watching a real movie. Chris Cooper, you guys should have been here. You guys should have been here to see my reaction during the scene where Chris Cooper, because the whole conceit of the movie is James Marsden is taking this road trip and he gets into all these adventures with these strangers along the way and learns these lessons. He doesn't learn anything except that, you know, Gary Oldman's a psychopath, but
he doesn't like the color red.
Say what?
And he really doesn't like the color red.
Really doesn't like the color red. Fuck his dad for giving him a red car. What an asshole.
Yeah, give him a BMW, man. Fuck you.
but yeah, one of the people he picks up is Chris Cooper, who's like this businessman. And there's a scene where they stop at a gas station and there's a homeless guy who's like, hey man, I'll work for food. And Chris Cooper's being a complete asshole, just like, wash this guy's windshield and I'll give you an apple. And he's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, so you don't really want to work for the food, do you? You just want the fucking apple. And the homeless guy's like, I'm not washing the windshield. And Chris Cooper opens up his jacket and he has dynamite strapped to his waist and says, I'm gonna blow us all to fucking kingdom come if you don't wash this man's windshield. I got terminal cancer and I don't give a shit. And I was sitting here just, what the fuck is going on?
He really doesn't like liars, you know?
No, he sure doesn't. I'll be straight with you, you'll be straight with me. That's his motto. And again, this is the most batshit insane. This guy's crazy. But James Marsden basically just writes it off as just like, he's quirky. I like the guy. I like how he threatens to blow up homeless people. It's a quirk. I like it. And
I mean, they use it as a plot point later, which was the funniest shit ever. When
I
he's
know.
like,
It's like he's
I was
calling
like,
him
are you really
in
gonna do that?
blow up the courtroom later on. Yeah, that was insane.
That whole segment was where I did feel like the messaging was really being beaten over the head of.
No, you think? Yeah, with the subtlety of a fucking wrecking ball, I was just like, this is really just. I mean, everything that's happened. Say what?
So I was gonna say, what was the whole subplot with Kurt Russell running that town with the drugs?
Okay,
that kind of came and went.
But that's the whole movie. It's just pure batshit insane nonsense. Just insane misadventure after insane misadventure, like them going to the town with the drugs and him stopping over in the lawyer town and picking up the nympho hitchhiker who is just like has fucked 2,000 people, and just all of it is just pure. And again, the dialogue sounds like it was written by a high school student, but like it's nonsense. Like none of it matters. It's completely insane. There are no stakes. There's no plot. It's just absolute unfiltered nonsense and very, very tonally jarring. Like that was one of the things that was getting me the most. Again, Gary Oldman is a psychopath. I mean, you see the movie and you're like, this dude is literally killing and maiming people, like fucking with them for fun, basically. But they're playing it like, oh, he's this whimsical sage who's just teaching people about life. And I'm like, no, he's crazy. And like, again, and there are other scenes, like the scene where they go to the town with Kurt Russell and the drugs. It's the most fucked up shit you ever saw. It's just like this woman's son is like enslaved by this drug, and then she takes it herself and is enslaved to this drug, and it's just the most horrific shit you've ever seen. And it's just like, oh my God, this is so terrible. And then like the next scene is just, oh yeah, he's just narrating again and just like, well, that was weird. Anyway, back to finding my girl, and that was pretty crazy, wasn't it? I'm like, you're just not going to address the absolute horrors that you just went like back to the whimsical road trip. It's just these really fucking jarring tonal shifts that just happen throughout the whole movie. Say what?
And then Amy's smart at the end, him when he meets her, and then she just starts doing that.
I made that joke. I made that joke right before the whole like long slow-mo of her walking. I made a joke like about her like having a weird voice when she started talking. And then when she started doing it, I was like, Jesus Christ, I can't believe they actually did it. Yeah, just like this big moment where he finally meets what he's been after this whole time, the girl of his dreams, and then, hey, you fucking cocksucker, give me that shit back right now. I'm just like, oh wow, again, very
and then that's all a joke. And she's like, oh, it was a test.
Again, but it's like
even then I was like, damn, this is
bizarre tonal shifts.
Like,
it just it was so weird. It just didn't work. And this whole thing is like, it makes sense that it came out in like 2002. It's one of those movies that falls into this subgenre that existed at this time in the late 90s and early 2000s, the like American Beauty-esque, like, you know, I'm a rich person, upper class, well-to-do person. My life is pretty perfect, but I'm sad because there's something that's just missing, you know, like and I'm not against that genre, like inherently, but there were a lot of bad movies in that genre. Like American Beauty, it makes sense that that's the inspiration because that movie's a piece of shit as well. But you know, movies like that and the safety of objects and just like all these terrible movies from that time that had that thing. Because again, like James Marsden's an asshole. Like, fuck you, Dad, for giving me a BMW convertible. It's red. How could you give me a car that's red, you piece of shit? Like, fuck you, you brat. You got a BMW convertible. You don't like that he put his catchphrase on the license plate? Change the fucking license plate.
You could
Like,
also get it repainted too if he had that much
exactly.
money.
It's like, fuck off, you know? Like, I don't know. It's the whole thing. I get it. Again,
I would
like,
say it kept me engaged and it entertained me. I definitely was
hey,
not
I
bored. I
mean,
wasn't sitting there like, come on, move to the next thing. I was just like, what the fuck is going on?
that was me for most of the movie, was just what the
But
fuck is going on. But I
yeah.
will say this. The one part of the movie where I was invested, because most of it was just absolute nonsense that I couldn't. It's not even that just that I didn't care. It's just that it was so batshit crazy. I didn't even have the brain capacity to care. I felt like my brain was in like swimming in acid. But like, and I couldn't have cared less about him delivering the package. I was like, I don't care what's in the package. I don't really give a shit. But the one part of the movie where I was invested was that little chunk towards the end where he finally gets the girl and he's like driving along the highway and they're talking about the killer on the radio and everything. And I don't know, it's like there was nothing to get invested in. There were no real stakes for most of the movie because again, it's just nonsense. Like there's nothing tangible to get invested in. But the one thing, and it's not even that they did it particularly well, it's just like I don't know, it's like this primal feeling inside me that just couldn't help but care somewhat about him, finally getting with this girl because he's been after it the whole movie. It's what he's been trying to get to, and it's just like I don't know. I want to see him. I want to see them together. I want to see him finally have that. He's worked so hard for it, and so when the eight ball's telling him like you're not coming back for her and you got to leave her here and the highway's blocked and he's trying to. I was invested in that. I was just like, okay, I want him to get back to her. I don't want them to never see each other again. Like that was the one kind of part where I was kind of invested in it. I don't know what the hell the point of the like I didn't realize it had been set up at any point that he was a potential killer who wanted to murder his dad. I thought that was very random that they just threw that into the climax.
Like the car and everything, and that's why he got
Yeah.
stopped originally. And then since he didn't have the paint on the back of the car, that's why the cop let him keep going.
Well, I know. I mean, but I'm just saying, like, at the end when it turns out it was the real killer was just I guess another version of him. It was just like okay because it said like yeah he went nuts and killed his family or his dad or whatever, and I'm like, is that something we were supposed to think was in danger of happening at any point?
Mhm.
It's not really been made clear that he doesn't like his dad, but like that was a dark alternate version of himself that like if he had gone down the wrong path would have okay, like I didn't know that was something that we were supposed to think, but again there were stakes during that whole climax part where he's trying to get away from the cops and where he's trying to like the whole thing of like the murder weapon is in the package and him having to decide whether to open it or not. I was like, okay, there are real stakes here for the first time in the movie. There's something to be invested in. So there's that at least. My main problem, other than it just being the ravings of a madman, was just the fact that the dialogue was the most, again, like all the movies in that subgenre were at that time, just the most uninspired, cliched, sounds like a fucking high school kid wrote it who's never written a screenplay before. Just it's this it the film, the writer director just wants to just have a bunch of spiels about life and shit. It sounds incredibly cliched, like you have to learn to see what other people, what not to see what other people see and shit like that. And just every monologue in the movie just sounded really, really, really just cliched and just clunky and badly written and just, very juvenile. It's like, okay, if you Sam, I thought your review was perfect for it. I was like, if you're just some kid who it's after 9/11 and you're just trying to find some meaning in your life and you just throw this on and it does something for you, like, okay. But like anyone with a brain, I feel like, who's an adult wouldn't necessarily be taken in by like just the super generic cliche, just I don't know. Again, it was typical of every movie in that genre. It's just like, well, what does life mean? Let's have a bunch of pretentious monologues about life that are just again, subtlety of a fucking wrecking ball and shit like that. I don't know.
I really like Kurt Russell's ponytail.
That was
The
random.
ponytail. Yeah.
I couldn't stop staring at it.
That was the highlight of the movie for me, was his ponytail.
Yeah, that thing was a star in its own right. Did anyone else think his voice sounded way more high pitched than normal?
I haven't really noticed.
It kind of sounded like that to me. I didn't know if that was just me or if they did something to his voice, but yeah. So
I think I enjoyed it the most out of the three of us, but
really,
I think it just fits that corner of my brain where like you said, it's too batshit for you. I think that it's not batshit enough for something I wanted. But
not batshit enough.
I mean, it was batshit for sure, but I feel like
I have to make this clear to the audience. Like what we have described is the tip of the fucking iceberg. There is a scene in this movie where Gary Oldman is talking about how he got his dick cut off when he was a kid, and James Marsden asks to see it, and he shows it to him, and he freaks out and recoils in horror. And then immediately afterwards, Amy Jo Johnson, the Pink Power Ranger, shows up, and she's a nymphomaniac who's talking about how she's fucked over 2,000 people, and she also sees Gary Oldman's cut off dick and recoils in horror. And there's a 5-minute conversation that they have about it, and it's just it's insane. I mean, I didn't think I'd ever see a movie more batshit crazy than How High, but I think this really like, I think this beat it. I think this was the ravings of a fucking serial killer, to be honest.
But yeah, that was Interstate 60, Stories of the Road.
The road.
I can see why it went direct to video.
The road.
So, like, if it was broken up into little YouTube segments, would you think that'd be more entertainable to watch? Because I was thinking, like, the time period and how each encounter is a different episode. I don't know if that would help.
As a miniseries, it'd be better.
Well, I mean, the concept is a decent concept. I mean, and again, I do think even with the madness of it all, like there were some ideas in this where I'm like, okay, there's on a deep level here, there are some ideas that like were interesting, but like if they had just sprouted in a different direction, this could have been a much better movie. But this sprouted into the plant from Little Shop of Horrors, where it's just, you know, a savage, insane being that's just killing people. But
I like that you completely took it as Gary Oldman's the serial killer, because you're not wrong the way.
No, I'm not wrong.
And so that's where I'm just like, oh yeah.
I mean, he literally murders Michael J. Fox at the beginning of the movie. Like, he almost kills James Marsden.
No.
Say what?
Or did he murder himself with his bad intentions?
You got to be careful what you wish for.
Oh, I didn't think about it that way. Oh my goodness. No, see, that's what pisses me off about it is like it's the Willy Wonka thing where it's like it's the movie thinks that these are all bad intentions, but it's really not bad at all. The guy just wanted to make it to his meeting on time. That's not a bad intention. Like the guy just wanted to eat some food. That's not a bad intention. You know, the people whose car he blew up, they just wanted to get married. That's not a bad intention. James Marsden.
Or I was going to say,
he's like the Joker, though.
Say what?
Gary Oldman, he's like the Joker.
Yeah, he said that, didn't he? I was
he
like,
did.
no, you're not a Joker.
He even did like a little laugh,
You're-
and I was like,
you're not a Joker. You're a Commissioner Gordon, sir. But,
he was auditioning for the wrong role in that movie.
exactly. But no, James Marsden is the only person we know of who encountered that guy who didn't suffer a horrific fate. I'm just like, what was more? I don't understand what was so altruistic about his desires. He wanted to get with a chick. Like, how is that any better or worse than anything else? I don't know. It's that Willy Wonka thing of just like, all these kids are fucking horrible. Not really. Like one of them just watches TV. One of them just chews gum. One of them is just fat. Like those aren't bad things, you know? Like if you think they are, then I think you're the one with the problem, you know, psycho killer guy. But yeah, it's he literally intentionally causes that bucket to fall on James Marsden's head. Like he's a menace.
It did really upset me that he drops his candle and then that doesn't come back to play in the movie at all. And I thought that was kind of like the whole thing was he said to hold on to this.
You're exactly right.
And then when the bucket falls, you see he drops it out of his hand, but he doesn't get it.
You're exactly right. I completely forgot about that. That is weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
I thought that was going to be like he makes another wish to like go home or something at the end or something along that line.
That's a good point. But yeah, I just that yeah, it was definitely it kept my attention, I'll say that much. About 2/3 of the way through the movie, I was like, I kind of just stopped questioning it. I was just like, okay, it's madness. There's no logic to this. There's no, if you tell me that he secretly, if he just like tears his skin off and he's a unicorn with oranges for testicles, like I'll go with it. You know, like, okay, that is in keeping with the logic of this movie. Like, all right. Like pretty much when Chris Cooper pulled out the dynamite, I was just like, all right, no, this whatever. This is just absolute nonsense. These are the ravings of a madman. But I guess Bob Gale's creativity flows in both directions. That insanely brilliant creativity for Back to the Future, if you channel it in the other direction, this is what you get.
Yeah, he didn't have Zemeckis over here to rein him in.
Yeah, I guess not. Zemeckis would have made it a motion capture movie. This is that era when he was on that bullshit. But
elbow deep in Jim Carrey, getting ready for Christmas Carol,
and Tom Hanks.
But all right, so moving into Jackson's pick,
which would be Laura. 1944's Laura from Mr. Otto Preminger, also a madman himself. But yeah, that this is a classic movie. It's a noir mystery movie about this detective played by Dana Andrews who is investigating a murder of a young woman named Laura, and he's asking around and trying to figure out what happened to her, who killed her, all this stuff. And it's hard to really, without
just to be clear though, it's not Laura Palmer.
Say what?
You met
Got a Twin Peaks joke in there.
See that.
But yeah, I guess I guess we're spoiling things, so I'll just say it. He's investigating and he starts kind of, I don't know, in a way falling in love with her, even though she's dead. And he's like looking at her painting up on the wall, and he's kind of becoming obsessed with it. And then there's a big twist where halfway through the movie, you find out she ain't really dead. Someone else was murdered, and now they got to find out who it is that wanted her dead. So yeah, like I said, Dana Andrews plays the detective, and got a small but very formidable cast. You got Gene Tierney as Laura. You got Vincent fucking Price, the GOAT, playing a real dirtbag in this movie. Sans mustache, no mustache.
Yeah, no, that's why he was saying he's naked, because it's like without seeing with the mustache, I was like, what?
I literally, when he first showed up, I'm like, that looks and sounds like him, but he doesn't have a mustache, so I'm not sure.
Cannot be too convinced.
Yeah, and Clifton Webb, who I gotta give a special shout out to, because I thought he was exceptional as, again, one of the most hateable characters I've seen in anything in a minute. And that's even before you find out he's the killer. I was like, the whole movie, I was like, somebody slapped this piece of shit in the face.
I do know that the Bryan Cranston Trumbo movie is based off a real person, but just seeing him in that bathtub typing away, it's been so much.
He's got the same kind of look too, with the mustache and everything. But yeah, I guess that's just what people did back then. They wrote in bathtubs.
I mean, low key, I would want to do that.
I was kind of thinking the same thing.
I was knocking shit into the bathtub.
I was like, I don't know when I would ever be inclined to write in a bathtub, but I want to do it just to do it. But
back
yeah,
it's
though,
so probably also why.
Yeah. It's It's a great one. This was my favorite of the three for sure.
Wonderfully shot.
Yes, beautifully shot, beautifully scored. And the music was really, I think, a standout in this one. And a great, great story about, really, when you look at it, I think, like, technically, I guess you could say either the detective or Laura are the main characters of the story. When you really look at it, I think the piece of shit journalist, it's really about him. Like when you look at it, I almost kind of see him as the main character of the story because it's just like it's because it's really just about like this one guy's obsession with this woman, and just like how he just can't, you know, he just can't stop obsessing over her basically, and how he can't like just do the right thing and just not only let her go but let her be with someone else, and just just this examination on just what people will do in that position and the lengths they'll go to, and just like it was very fascinating. And again, it kind of ends with him, when he gets shot at the end and he's dying. It's just like, I don't know. It's kind of like the bookend to the movie. He starts by narrating the movie and it ends kind of with him dying. And I'm just like, oh, what a fascinating story about just obsession and, possession and just all this stuff. It's, I don't know. I thought it was, and a great mystery as well, because it's so funny how it works you. He was my number one suspect at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
But they do such a good job layering the mystery that by the time they reveal it's him, you stop thinking about him. Like you think it's Vincent Price, or you think maybe it's somebody else, or
See, that's who I thought it was gonna be because I was like the whole time I was like, wait, what? It's probably Vincent Price because clearly like they would cast him to be the killer, but then
right. You would
they
think.
helped with
That
the
motherfucker was
rise.
lying every 2 seconds.
Yes, he was.
Going to the symphony saying exactly what he thought the program was, but nope. Motherfucker, you were asleep. Or were you?
Exactly. Yeah.
I thought I was gonna be the maid at one point.
Oh, you did really? That would have
I
been an
mean,
interesting twist.
when
Yeah.
they were at the like welcome home party and she came in and like ran up and like blocked her and everything, I was like, is that the direction they're gonna go with this and everything? And like maybe she caught this other girl with Vincent Price or something, and so she like killed her to keep his relationship with Laura like perfect and everything. But no, it just went completely in a different
I thought at
direction.
one point it was going to be his side hoe, because she was like really like, I understand him and I want you to leave her and be with me and stuff, and I'm like, oh well, maybe it's her, who knows. But I gotta give a shout out to the actress who plays the maid, by the way, because not only was she great in this, but she's an actress named Dorothy Adams. This is the sixth movie I have seen her in this year, and I haven't been trying. I've just been watching a bunch of shit at random, and this is the sixth thing I've seen her in. It's by far the biggest part she's ever had in anything I've seen. She's an actress who usually has very small, sometimes just bit parts, and is uncredited a lot of the time, but she just keeps popping up and shit. And I just Sam, she was in The Killing, Stanley Kubrick's The Killing,
Oh,
in a small part. Remember the guy whose wife was sick, and that's
yeah.
why he was doing it? That was her. And yeah, I was happy to see her have such a big part in this. So I was like, hey, all right, good for you. And she was great. So I just wanted to give her a shout out because she's cool. But yeah, I really think that the whole thing was just when you look at it again, the snobby journalist guy, again, his arc is the most prominent and the most fascinating. And again, it's just so interesting, just this examination of like when a person becomes obsessed and possessive of somebody, the things they'll do and the lengths that they'll go to. But again, when you really look at it, it's a fascinating examination of just three different perspectives of that, because each of them to a degree is attached to her in some way, and just examining the different ways, because obviously Clifton Webb's character is the craziest of the three, and he's the most destructive of the three and the most possessive of the three. But Vincent Price also, like, has a very kind of toxic relationship with her and is very much just like, I'm not going to kill you, but I am going to cheat on you like nobody's ever seen. I'm just going to, I'm going to fuck my side hoe over here. I'm going to fuck one of the models at your agency. I'm gonna, just do all kinds of I'm gonna do it in your apartment. I'm gonna fuck one of my side hoes in your apartment when she's wearing your fucking negligee. I mean, just like, it's fucking crazy. And then just the detective guy who obviously is the most noble of the three, but even then is kind of off, just the way he's like, they say it at one point, like the time he was the most attached to you is when you were dead. Like when he couldn't have her is when he wanted her the most, and he's like looking at the picture and behaving very strangely. It's just, I don't know, it just presents all these interesting dynamics about like, how each of these guys kind of react to her both in death and when she's alive. And again, just a very fun, suspenseful mystery, with great cinematography. The last like 5 minutes or so, I was on the edge of my fucking seat. I mean, it's great cinematography, very just like chilling. Like when he opens the door slowly and he's coming into the room, and just that shot of him like looming over her with the gun, I was like, oh man, this is like really good shit. But
I haven't seen it, but his look in this makes me want to watch this movie called Alphaville from the 60s,
I want
which
to see
is a
that too.
black and white noir movie. So
Yeah, because I saw my first, that's Jean-Luc Godard who did that, and I saw my first movie of his earlier in the year. I have yet to see a second, so that would be a good opportunity to watch another one.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, just I can see why it's a classic. It's definitely just all around, it was a very great movie. I thought just well made in all aspects. Otto Preminger was a crazy motherfucker, but he was very talented. So you can see just the early. This was like his first movie that put him on the map, like his first big one. So I can see why. I can see how this kind of kickstarted his career. So yeah, just good time, I would say.
Yeah, classic noir.
Well, I
All
guess
right.
it's this episode of 3 for 3. And we'll be right back next week with another set of crazy movies. Hopefully not as crazy as Interstate 60.
I don't think
But
that's possible, but
um,
Oh, wait, it's possible.
yeah, my next pick this week is
What is it gonna be,
push
climax?
buttons. It's called Sundown: Retreat of the Vampire, where Bruce Campbell goes on this journey to this
I've
vampire.
wanted to see that.
Yep.
Fuck yeah. Was that on?
I think it's on Prime.
Okay.
So,
Heck yeah. I
and
want to
I've
since
see that.
never heard of this, so
our first episode,
I'm gonna be going in blind here. Peace out, everybody.
Adios, y'all.
see you
Later.
at sundown.
See you next week.